Hello, good afternoon. My name is Dan McGrew with IT Services 2. We're here today with DX Talks and all things SAP. Today we have a special guest with us today is Laura Tibodeau. Hello, Laura. How are you?
Howdy. Doing well. Thank you for the opportunity to meet up this morning.
Absolutely. Well, we have a great, we think some great content that's going to come from our conversation today. As you're absolutely an expert in many things, and just want to pick your brain a little bit. And for those that are going to be watching, I'm sure they'll benefit as well. So tell us a little bit about your background, Laura, and what you do.
Well, my background started in high tech, both with Compact Computer and HP. I did a lot of SAP implementations. Did a lot more SAP implementations with some M&A work and led strategy, governance, PMO functions. Made a shift over into the energy industry, working for two different chemical companies, both Americas Styrenics, headquartered in the Woodlands, and then Ascend Performance Materials. After that, I ended up forming my own company, Tibodeau & Co. Executive Advisors, and working with clients on brownfield strategies, greenfield strategies, licensing strategies, RISE strategies, trying to help them get to be their best self in the SAP environment.
Very good. Well, I last saw you at one of the Dallas ASUG conferences, and you spoke on BTP. And I know that BTP has been around a little bit, but it hadn't been around for 10, 15 years, and a lot of people really don't know what it is. Could you take a minute to talk about BTP? Explain what it is, and then also some advantages that you think going forward with the SAP ecosystem, it's a good thing, and why?
Well, that's a really broad question. And let me just kind of say, in my mind, BTP is an umbrella term used for all things technical in the SAP environment. So BTP could mean the CPI connectors, which we use, as a replacement for PI and XI or EDI. It could mean that. It could mean the messaging strategy that we use. It could mean the communication strategy that we use. It could mean the means that we take any customizations that we need to differentiate our environment, and we keep a clean core and we communicate with those customizations through BTP. It also has everything to do with data analytics when we're talking about DataSphere and connecting to external data sources. That's all part of BTP. So that's why this is really an important one to unpack, and probably needs more time than we have in this program. But if you're talking about unlocking the power of your data, if you're talking about unlocking integrations, if you're talking about your journey to clean core, then you're talking about BTP.
And the thing is, Laura, is that one of the things that we hear consistently as a consulting firm when we go into an environment, they have so many integrations, and there's so much that causes them problems with, when you have a million connectivity points, there can be opportunities for all kinds of issues. And when we talk about data and we talk about where it breaks, the one thing that we run into a lot is that there's a lack of efficiency. If I understand SAP's objective with BTP, it's to try to get a central hub where a lot of these various things can happen a lot more efficiently than they did in the past. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's all about what they say, clean core, right? That you want to stay as true to SAP out of the box as possible. You want to maintain that clean core. And the strategy is that any alterations or adjustments or optimizations you need for your environment would be handled through the BTP. So either through the CPI or through their pre-built connections. But that's really what it's about. And that's important to be able to maintain the value of your asset, because so many of us have customized over the years or inherited something that's been customized, and then you can't do the upgrades easily, and they're very expensive and they're very risky. And so, this notion is the polar opposite, which is to say, keep that clean core, do your tailoring and adjustments through BTP, and then have the ability to take the new developments and the innovation that SAP is constantly making available, take that right on in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about BTP is that that's where everything new is going to come into BTP that the customer is going to benefit from, right?
It is. It is.
So as we were talking earlier, I know that you were at Sapphire last week, and there was a lot of really cool things that you were excited about. Why don't you give us just a little bit of a flavor of what you picked up that you think is going to that'll make an impact on SAP customers going forward?
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a lot of discussion about AI, and really in kind of 3 or so different flavors. One flavor was embedded AI, and this is where you have the opportunity to utilize the AI, and you can ask business questions to SAP, to Joule, and it will come back. It's been trained on, or will be trained on, the SAP data structures, and so it can take your human question and relate it to what the data is and bring back sensible answers. And to the point that those are repeatable kinds of questions, then they're embedding those kind of pre-built questions and lines of thinking as embedded AI. This is important for small and medium-sized shops because we may not have an AI expert. We may not have someone trained in prompt engineering. And so the fact that they're bringing the power to the people with this embedded AI, right there in the product, very easy to use, extremely exciting. Use the Joule for any specific adjustments that you have or additional questions that you have on a specific topic. And then the third point that was kind of brought up, and I was like, wow, is this notion of Joule, which is the ChatGPT function, LLM function for SAP, now being trained to work in conjunction with Microsoft's Copilot, their LLM, tool. And this gives us the ability to reach across the enterprise. Think about, where the power of the enterprise is basically in SAP and Microsoft. And so if you have a tool that can traverse back and forth across these two huge enterprise applications, oh my gosh, I think very exciting. So 3 things: embedded AI, Joule as the ChatGPT LLM, tool now within SAP, and finally this interconnection with Joule and the Microsoft Copilot. 3 huge innovations introduced by Christian, introduced by Philip Herzig and Jürgen Mueller and Thomas Sauerog, and I think it's where it's at. Yeah, definitely.
That's really cool. And let's talk a little bit about, we were talking earlier about data and the importance of having good, clean data and how that's could be impacted in a positive way with this technology.
Yeah. Well, the good news about AI is, it unlocks answers to your business problems faster than you could ever imagine. The part B of that discussion is it's utilizing your data. And if you're not maintaining your master data, I would say this would be a great call to action, because it's reading that data, it's making sense out of that data, and it's coming back with answers, from that analysis. And so, now more than ever with this automation, if not now, when are we going to get to cleaning that data? Because the opportunity that can be unlocked is pretty amazing.
That is, we have a lot of projects that we're asked to come in and help them. It starts to be a data issue, and then some people are thinking, well, it's more of a technology issue. We ought to be able to solve it this way, or whatever. But it's not a one-off. I mean, most people struggle with their data, don't they? Has that been your experience?
I think there's a lot of tribal knowledge on the master data, and one person leaves and moves into a new role, and suddenly you just don't have that level of proficiency at what the answers to those various questions and what those fields really mean, and your data can start degrading, and maybe we don't have the same level of rigor in how we define the partners and the relationships on the partners, and so yeah, I think data management is a big deal. It's something that companies many times overlook on the importance of. And like I said, I think that the genie's about to come out of the box, because the AIML, it operates off of that data, and we really need to go back to the basics and make sure we have good data so that we get good answers.
That's right. I agree with that. Let me switch gears real quick. I want to ask you specifically about SAP's Grow. There's a lot of customers out there today that are still on ECC, and they haven't made the move to the cloud, either private or public. And there's a lot of them that are, they hear about the new technology, like, for example, what they would get with BTP and so forth that you touched on a while ago. What is your thought about the biggest obstacles for these companies to make the move to the cloud? We'll just say the public cloud for right now. What do you think some of the biggest obstacles are, Laura?
Well, I think it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. Depending on what industry you're in, the cloud may be more built out or less built out, for your industry. I think that's quickly changing, but the template has not been at the same level of complexity for all industries. But I think you kind of started with Grow, so let me kind of go back to my thoughts on Grow. When a company takes on an acquisition, as an example, my former company, it took on acquisitions, small companies in Mexico, India, China, France. Those are excellent opportunities to get into the use of the public cloud, to use a Grow type product. Previously, some of us that have been in the industry for a while said maybe it was a business one, but now go straight into the cloud. I mean, we're talking about timelines of 12 weeks, 16 weeks to get into an SAP public cloud, pre-built template and start really taking advantage straight away. Why not? Right? And especially if they've got the integrations between Grow and an S/4HANA, so that you can take that, that content back to your primary system. Why not? So I think there's a huge opportunity for Grow. Also, mid-markets, PE entities. Speed matters. These are great opportunities for Grow.
I agree. And so when we look at the technology, I think has probably changed with SAP more significantly just in the last several years, with opportunity, with all that they've made an emphasis on. And when we step back and we look at the SAP community, there's a lot of disparity between those that are still, like I said earlier, on ECC, and there's those that are out there leading edge and early adopters. What is your overall opinion about the state of SAP's solutions, and does it really provide the benefit to the customers to have a more efficient, have a better system, have a better operation and be more efficient with SAP? Is your opinion that is a strong yes, or, especially after going to Sapphire last week and all the cool things that you learned? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, Bill McDermott, I think, used to talk about simple, and that the more that you can streamline your operation, the faster that you can move and adopt and meet changing business conditions. And I think the more power that you can unlock in a single tool, the greater the integrations, or the more efficient the integrations, the better that it's able to just achieve the end result. So I think that there's a huge amount of opportunity in unlocking, the breadth and depth of the platform. And I kind of temper that back to our grow discussion, because grow, if you've got a very complex supply chain, grow is not your answer. That is not your answer. But if you've got, a small growing entity, largely financial based, largely procurement based, then grow is probably a great opportunity for you. As you need the greater complexity, typical in the energy industry, then you probably need to be in a private cloud kind of mantra. And I think that's where you bring in the additional modules to really accentuate your business, whether you're talking about the supply chain capabilities or the sustainability capabilities. But I think that's where you really bring in that next level of optimization.
And I agree with that. Is there anything else, Laura, that you can think of you pulled from the knowledge that was shared last week at Sapphire that you would want others to know about that maybe I didn't ask you or we didn't touch on? Anything significant that made a mark?
Well, I think that the other part of it was the commitment to the customers, right? And that came through in Christian's address. It came through in Jürgen Mueller's address and Thomas Saussarg's address, the commitment to the customers. And I think we as customers need to make sure that SAP understands what we need and to keep them on track. And I think they're committed. What I heard in spades last week was they're very committed to helping their customers, be their best self. So I thought it was an exciting time. You're right. Sapphire was just a lot of fun. It was a great experience for sure.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Laura, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. Your knowledge and your overall expertise is invaluable. And I know that anyone that listens to this is you're certainly going to have some people reaching up and scratching their temple and going, maybe I want to talk to her again or talk to someone that can educate me a little more. So thank you so much for the time you've spent with us today, and we appreciate it. Have
Thank
a
you,
good
Dan.
day.
A pleasure.
Thank you, Laura.
Have a great day.
All right. You
Bye
too,
for
man.
now.
Bye-bye.